Welcome to News World. Today, Zimbabwe coup live, Tyrant Robert Mugabe removed from power as army take control of Harare. Robert Mugabe has been removed from power and placed under house arrest with his family in what has been described as a bloodless transition as the military continues to deny reports of coup. Robert Mugabe has been removed from power and his former vice president installed as an interim president. Zimbabwe's military officials continue to deny reports of coup. Harare is swarming with army soldiers, blocking roads and preventing access to government buildings. Ruling party ZANU-PF says the so-called crisis is not a coup but a bloodless transition. Mugabe is safe but reportedly being held. The army challenged Mr. Mugabe after he sacked the vice president. Zimbabwe's army takes over the national broadcaster, ZBC. The move comes after the Zimbabwe army seized power overnight with gunshots and explosions heard in the capital. President Robert Mugabe, 93, is now preparing to step down, a few hours after the Zimbabwean military took over power, a leading South African news website has reported. News 24 also claims that he has made negotiations for his wife Grace to leave the country. Former Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa will now take power according to the ruling ZANU-PF party. The party also issued a series of the tweets this morning, saying there was not a military coup, just a bloodless transition. His statements read, "Last night the first family was detained and are safe. Both for the constitution and the sanity of the nation this was necessary. Neither Zimbabwe nor ZANU are owned by Mugabe and his wife. Today begins a fresh new era and Comrade Mnangagwa will help us achieve a better Zimbabwe. There was no coup, only a bloodless transition which saw corrupt and crooked persons being arrested and an elderly man who had been taken advantage of by his wife being detained. The few bangs that were heard were from crooks who were resisting arrest, but they are now detained. ZANU-PF has a way of solving our own problems. The situation is stable and Zimbabwe is open for business. There was no coup, but a bloodless peaceful transition. The center is strong and there is peace with honest leadership." Emmerson Mnangagwa, 75, was sacked from his post as vice president for what the government called traits of disloyalty. His removal was seen as making it more likely that President Mugabe's wife, Grace, would follow in her husband's footsteps as leader of Zimbabwe. She had earlier called on her husband to remove his vice president. Gunfire and explosions broke out in Harare, Zimbabwe following a warning by a military chief that the armed forces are ready to step into the political realm, witnesses have reported. Pictures taken this morning show large armored vehicles and soldiers appearing to block traffic in the capital. After storming a state television station, soldiers made a statement claiming they have intervened to target criminals around Mugabe. Zimbabwe's military chief said the army wanted to deal with people who were committing crimes that are causing social and economic suffering in the country. He added, "As soon as we have accomplished our mission, we expect that the situation will return to normal." A number of local residents have reported hearing at least 10 rounds of shots and 3 explosions in the capital. The National Police Force has recalled all officers on leave, and all officers have been ordered to return to their posts immediately. The military broadcast also instructed all members of the defense forces to regroup as all leave is cancelled. They added, "We call upon all the war veterans to play a positive role in ensuring peace, stability and unity in the country." To members of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, all leave is cancelled and you're all to return to your barracks with immediate effect. To the other security forces, we urge you to cooperate for the good of our country. Let it be clear we intend to address the human security threats in our country. Therefore any provocation will be met with an appropriate response. The Zimbabwe Finance Minister Ignatius Chombo is among those detained by the army, according to government sources. ZANU-PF Youth Secretary Digg Chipanga, a loyal supporter of Mugabe, has also been detained. The party's Youth League faction tweeted, "His safety has been guaranteed and has implored us to comply with the National Democratic Project which is underway. We would also want to commend the military for conducting the NDP with minimal force. Armed forces have promised that they will protect the civil service against planned purges." However, soldiers and armored vehicles have blocked roads to the main government offices, parliament and the courts in central Harare, witnesses have reported. Worried locals have started queuing for cash outside banks, which could have a knock-on economic effect if anxious investors pull out. And President Robert Mugabe's famous Blue House or Blue Roof has been sealed off by heavily armed military personnel. Despite the comments made by the military and ZANU-PF, the BBC's Shimga Nyoka said the situation in Zimbabwe had all the elements of coup. There was gunfire and explosions in several suburbs in areas overnight, including where senior government officials reside and where President Mugabe's private residence is. The army say he's safe and his security and that of his family is guaranteed. They deny it's a coup as they haven't usurped his power. They say they have targeted the people around him and he'll be restored to the presidency as soon as their mission is accomplished. The Foreign and Commonwealth Office has updated its travel advice to British nationals this morning, warning Brits to stay off the streets. It read, "Due to the uncertain political situation in Harare, including reports of unusual military activity, we recommend British nationals currently in Harare to remain safely at home or in their accommodation until the situation becomes clearer. You should avoid political activity, or activities which could be considered political, including political discussions in public places and criticism of the president. You should avoid all demonstrations and rallies. The authorities have sometimes used force to suppress demonstrations,